Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club television show. Betty, that guy out there is just a rocking and a rolling,
I
isn't he?
know, it's making me seasick just looking at him. Let's stop that right now.
Well, our cruise ship has arrived at the port in Turkey. Betty, and I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce this right, but if we listen to the guide a little bit later on, I think he gives us the correct pronunciation, Kaşadushi.
I say Kusadasi.
Something like that.
I
Okay,
mean,
take your
that's
pick,
my
right?
say, but I mean,
Yeah.
if you hear a little bit sounds like, then that's fine.
Anyway, this is going to be our only stop in Turkey because we're going to go to Ephesus, and we're all excited about that. Here's a little island out here where a fortification was built, many, many centuries ago, and that was an island at one time, but now it's connected with a little causeway right to the mainland. And this city has grown over the past few years. It is just absolutely huge. But let's listen to our guide.
And we will be together approximately for 4 hours. And during this time, whatever you need or whatever you want, please let me know. I do mean it.
No, I don't.
And this town is called Kuşadası. And the meaning of Kuşadası is the bird island. But it is not an island. It is the mainland of Turkey and Asia. I came to this town 1970, 35 years ago. But in those days, it was a small and a beautiful and a picturesque fishing village. And the population was not more than 2,000, and no shops, and one hotel. And today, and the winter population is approximately 47,000, and the summer population, unfortunately, is more than 500,000, and the shops are at least 1,500, and the hotels are not less than 270. So my beautiful fishing village is a concrete jungle today. I don't like it very much, but I have to tolerate it because it is where I make my living, because it is where you come. So what we are going to do today? And first we are going to visit and the house of Virgin Mary. It will take approximately 30-35 minutes to get there by driving. And then we are going to spend half an hour, because what we are going to see is a single building, which is an active church. In the church we don't talk. It is where you worship or you pray. So that's why on the way to the house of Virgin Mary, I will tell you everything about it. And since then, archaeologists have been working there continuously. And they were able to excavate only 1/8 of the city. It took 136 years to excavate 1/8. It is estimated that it will take at least 1,000 years to excavate the rest of the city. It's a very, very big city. The area the city was covering was approximately 10 square miles. And I believe, and the best way to give you the ultimate idea about the size and the richness of the city of Ephesus is what I'm going to tell you now. Today, Washington, D.C. is the capital or the administrative center of United States. But New York is the biggest one and the metropolis, isn't it? And think of the Roman Empire, and Rome was the capital. The city of Ephesus was the metropolis. In another saying, we are going to visit ancient Big Apple, ancient New York. I hope it makes sense, does it?
Betty, it was interesting to see that these theme parks here now are on the drive from the Kaşadushi over to Ephesus. And also, look at the building that's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, we think of it here in the United States, everything is being built up so much. And sometimes you don't think about that, in Europe or Asia, but all you have to do is look out here and,
Hey,
man, it's
they're smart.
incredible.
They know where the money's coming from. It's coming from the tourists, and we go there in droves.
Well, not only us, but the rest of the
Themselves,
people
huh?
from
Yeah.
Turkey, people from Israel. It's a great, great place to have a vacation because the weather's so nice and you're right there by the seashore. Let's listen once again to our guide.
After the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, St. John the Apostle was going to come to the city of Ephesus. Since he was responsible for her, he had to take her with him. So that's why she came here. And they lived together in the city of Ephesus for a while, and then they separated. She moved on top of that mountain. This is where we are driving now. I will come to that later. He moved on top of another hill. After 5 or 6 minutes, I will point you a hill. On top of it, you will see a castle. 13th century AD Turkish castle. Much, much later. But we are talking about 1st century AD. So then he lived there for a while, and then he was exiled into the island of Patmos by the order of Emperor Domitian, lived on that island for 5 years, and where he wrote the Revelation. After the death of Emperor Domitian, he came back and he continued to live on that hilltop, and where he wrote the gospel, died and buried. And when he died, he was 104 years old. He died in the first half of the 2nd century AD. Interesting point. And you know, there are 12 disciples. He is the only one who had the longest life and died with the natural death. After they separated, she moved on top of that mountain. This is where we are being now, and lived in a house and built for her by Saint John the Apostle, and spent the last days of her life in that house. And what happened to her? In the Christian, or the Catholic belief, not in the Protestant belief, is what you call the Assumption of Virgin Mary. I mean, she was taken to heaven. So we are not going to see the tomb of Virgin Mary. There is no tomb. What we are going to see is a small house, and where she spent the last days of her life. And this building is an active church. Every Sunday morning at 10:30, there's a Sunday morning service. And the Turkish Christians go there. And Turkish Muslims go there too. How come? I mean, for us, church or synagogue or mosque, or your home or my home, and the whole world is the house of God. And the name is not important. And when we get there today, you can see the Turkish Muslims praying in the church. Well, it's the house of God, so that's why we go there. I mean, I have been there many times. I prayed in a church, although my religion is something else. So the bus is going to take us, by the way, and the house of Virgin Mary is located on top of a mountain, and the height from the sea level is 425 meters, almost 1,400 feet. On your right-hand side, you can see the beginning of the ruins of the ancient city of Ephesus. In less than 2 minutes, on your right-hand side, you will see the gate and the entrance to the site. It is on your right-hand side right now.
This is what we've been waiting for, because we want to visit the house of Mary where St. John took her, and where we believe from history and from tradition, that this is where she spent her final days. And the house was discovered, and we're going to have a chance now to take a look at Mary's house.
And go to the left. On the wall, can you see the red line and painted? And to show you the original section and the reconstructed section. And there you will see the steps going down. Forget the first level. Forget the first level and get to the second level where they are. And when you get to the bottom of the steps on the second level, on your right hand side in the wall you will see the niches and the taps with the holy water. And that water is safe to drink. And then you can walk back to the bus this way as they are doing. So when you get where they are, on the wall you will see all the offerings.
Well, you know, this trip, as we're finding out every time we go back to Europe or to Asia or wherever, you know, we started this 20 years ago, and we were able to take pictures everywhere. I mean, we've taken pictures inside of Mary's house, but you can't do that anymore.
And you also took a few pictures that weren't available to be taken. That you know, you had a unique way of carrying your camera.
Well, we won't talk about that on the air, but yeah,
that's why we were able to. No, but we got more.
Yeah.
More to become aware of them.
You can't do that so much today.
No.
Now, on this particular wall that we just saw right here, that's where Christians and Muslims both put in their little requests or their little prayers on this wall here, because this site is very, very sacred to both Christians and to Muslims. And so there are a lot of pilgrimages that are made here to Mary's house. There's also a well here as well.
A well?
A well as well.
Oh my God, aren't you being redundant?
You see, you're putting your little thing up there, aren't you?
Yeah,
Your little
I
prayer
believe in
closet.
this. And what impressed me so much about Mary's house was the saying from the Quran that was giving Mary as much reverence, well, maybe not as much, that we do as Christians.
Right.
They have a
Well,
great
actually,
devotion to her.
It's interesting because she's mentioned more in the Quran than she is in the Bible. Isn't that something?
It is.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go now down to the city of Ephesus, because Mary's house was up on a hill, which was quite a ways from there. So I would imagine that when she got her supplies, or when St. John brought them up, or other neighbors, whatever, well, you just didn't run down for a loaf of bread, I mean, to this big city, because this was a big city, and it was a port city at the time, too. Now it is not, because the river has filled in with silt, and so it filled in all of that area that was a port area, and so now it's much, much further away as far as the water is concerned. But, excuse me, but I was just going to say, weren't you impressed, though, with all of the stuff, that new stuff that we've seen there? I mean, every time we go back, there's more and more that's being uncovered.
I don't think I'm in. Oh, you mean with the antique things or
Right,
the
yeah, the
archaeological
buildings and- yes,
buildings?
exactly, yeah.
I am with that because when you read about these places and so long ago, you can't really visualize that it's really true. But then when you see the foundations that are laid, and the more they excavate, the more you realize that they were tremendous sites that were there, thriving.
They were saying that it's probably going to take not 100 years, but probably 1,000 years to uncover everything that they have here and to reconstruct everything. And to me, that's absolutely a mind blower, because I had no idea that Ephesus was that big. But I remember on other trips that we've taken, we've been out in some of the outlying areas, and which we did not go on this trip, but the city just extended further and further and further, because it was a very, very important city because of the seaport, and it was a big trading city as well.
I loved walking down the marble not stairs, the stepping stones, the streets, where you could see where the chariots had been, you know, and then to think that they had hot running water.
Right.
They were magnificent minds. We think we're so smart, you know. Hey, we've learned a lot, I'm sure, from them.
And that's part of the system right there, as you can see, that what you're talking about. Also a sewer system as well, not just hot water coming into the homes, but also because they had public baths and public toilets, and they had unique ways of carrying the waste away from there. And I just think it was must have been a very interesting and marvelous civilization at that time. But St. Paul had a lot of work to do here.
I think it was rather immoral place. We could maybe we're
going to visit. You're right.
Sin City.
Yeah, we're going to visit a little place here that'll show you the way to go to some of the houses of ill repute. However, St. Paul, you know,
preached here,
yeah, he did preach here, and of course there were a lot of Christians here, even at the time when Paul did come here, and so that is just really, really marvelous, and that it has stayed with us, you know.
But you know, Marv, one thing about how they built these, like the Colosseum things, the
theaters,
yes, the theaters, they built them with such knowledge about acoustics,
right?
Because you didn't have to have a loud, raucous voice, although I'm sure Paul did have. But you didn't really have to do that. You could do, because we experimented with it.
You know, that's right. And it seemed like it was the Romans that did that, because we, down in, when we get to Palestine, when it's Caesarea, when we go to other places, you know, here, when we go across to Greece again. But we noticed that, and that you're right, the technique of building this, and for the acoustics where everyone could hear. And Betty, I remember one year you sang a song in the middle of one of those things, and I was way, way, way up and would have been the real cheap seats up in the back, and I could hear everything just absolutely perfectly.
Actually, you could just kind of give it a whisper like this, you know, but I got a loud voice. But it wasn't necessary. It's marvelous. It's just wonderful. And now today I go to Mass, and our public address system is so lousy I can't hear the priest. So they did better than we do.
Well, it was interesting that the engineering of that was so magnificent, but also I think the craftsmanship we see here. That of course these are just, you know, things that are lying about. But you see all of the carving on the marble. It's just, it must have been a fantastic city when it was in its heyday to visit. I mean, to walk through, to see the market area, to see, you know, the sailors were coming in off the ships, the merchants were coming in with all sorts of things.
Huh?
Oh, incredible.
Now, Marv, a lot of this damage, the pillars that we see on the ground, that was earthquake, wasn't it, that caused that?
Yes,
it
very much
wasn't
so.
just people came in and destroyed it.
No.
There was a lot of earthquakes, and probably still are in that area.
I would imagine so, but you're absolutely right. And as we go through other parts of Greece, we're going to find out that the same thing happened. Some of the beautiful temples and some of the beautiful buildings that were there, the reason that they did come down was because of earthquakes. It's absolutely, you're absolutely right. But of course, you know, over a period of time, I'm sure that people have, you know, local people have taken things before they couldn't do that,
Souvenirs, like
used
the-
for building materials, you know.
Yeah.
Because everything was already quarried. I mean, you already had the marble and stuff. But we can see what they're doing here. I mean, the reconstruction on so much, and this every time we go back to Ephesus, we see this more and more and more, and it's just thrilling. That I would imagine it's the Turkish government that is, that's probably footing the bill for this.
Who was the guy that I kept bragging about?
Schliemann.
Schliemann. Now I don't know whether he ever got over to Ephesus or not, but
Well, I would imagine he probably did, because I mean he was the one that found Troy.
Yeah.
And of course that also is in what is now is Turkey. So I would imagine that he did. Of course, and Betty, he's for our listeners. The book that you got on him was just really fantastic. He was sort of an amateur archaeologist, but he came over to the United States during the gold rush. I mean, that's where he made his money, and then went back, married a Greek woman, because he was enthralled with Greek culture and, of course, the antiquity. So I would suspect that he probably did come to Ephesus. It wasn't that far away, from where he was.
Well, if he did, he would have not only done the excavating, he would have made a lot of money he took a lot of the gold and the whatever jewels.
It may have all been gone by the time he got there.
That's true.
It may have been all, it's hard to say.
But see the street?
Yeah, the marble streets are still there. It's great. And it's just so wonderful to walk down and to think that how much history, how many things have happened on this particular street. It's just really incredible. These are some of the shops, and they're supposedly were living quarters above. And look at the mosaic floor that's still there, Betty. Isn't that something? Well, we're going to listen to our guide one more time as he explains something very interesting.
And the most important part of the building was the room or the chamber back there, and where the cult, C-U-L-T, the cult figure or the statue of the Roman Emperor Hadrian used to be located. As you can see, and there are 4 marble pedestals at the front of the building, and there used to be 4 marble statues of the different Roman emperors on top of them, and to decorate the facade of this building, it is a very, very successful reconstruction.
This fellow was really a really good guide. He was very humorous too at times. And, we've been very fortunate because I think every time we've been to Ephesus, we've had really tremendous guides here. And the thing is that there are a lot of other people that are going through Ephesus at the same time as we are. And so you kind of have to pace yourself so that you can listen to your guide and get all of the information, because there's so much here to absorb, just so much. It's just so interesting.
Wasn't that the library that was?
We're going to take a look at that. But first of all, we have to go to the latrine.
Marv,
before you go to the library.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think of all the places that intrigues our people more than anything.
And here it is.
And tickle. I mean, really, they sat down for size to see.
Right. Well, this was very interesting, and now you have to figure that there was a marble floor in here. The water was flowing underneath, taking all the waste away. The room was heated, and this is where you came to do your business. Now, when I say that, I mean you visited, and if you're a business person, you also did, transaction business there,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So this was really something. It was not out of the ordinary. There's other places that we've been that have actually the same places too, because you have to realize that there were public baths and public latrines, and these were undoubtedly very, very clean.
Better than an outhouse.
Very much so.
It's called the House of Ill Repute, or the best little whorehouse in Ephesus, not in Texas, y'all. It was a 2-story building, first and second floor. On the first floor there were the dining rooms and the kitchen and storage places. On the second floor there were 20 or 21 bedrooms for the visitors. I will not go into the details about the frescoes on the wall of the bedrooms. And this is the highlight of the city, and the most beautiful, and the most charming, and the most impressive building called the Library of Celsus. It was the 3rd biggest one of the ancient world. And the first one was located in the city of Alexandria, in Egypt. And the second one was in the ancient city of Pergamum, and the 3rd one. And Celsus, or Celsoy, he was the general governor, or the governor, or the general of all Asia Minor during the Roman period. He was a very rich, he was a very, very powerful man. He paid an order for the construction of this building with the idea in his mind that after he died, and this building would be his mausoleum, a monumental tomb. It's a 2nd century AD building. After he died, he was buried there. And the burial chamber is still there. And 2-story building and a fantastically decorated facade and completely reconstruction. And the 3rd one is the figure of a girl, and who was an employee in that building. You know what I mean? 4th one may look like a credit card. No, it is not. And some numbers, it was the price. But if you notice that, and the price too is carved on the marble block, and that means they didn't change it often. So we know that in this city they didn't have any inflation. And the last one is the figure of a heart, which means love. Interpretation of a dirty-minded archaeologist is this. If you walk in this street, on the left-hand side, on this direction, on the crossroad, and girls are available, if you pay the price, and then you can buy love. But we shouldn't forget something. It was an incredibly cosmopolitan city, and so many foreign people were coming here. I mean, businessmen, adventurers, and soldiers, but especially, and the sailors were arriving at the harbor after a long time and sail on the sea. So then they needed something like this, and to show them the way. Well, in few minutes, you are going to see the biggest, largest, or the greatest ancient theater of whole world. But it is the biggest one, but it is not the best preserved one. And the best preserved one is the one in Epidavros in Greece. And the seating capacity of this theater is 24,000. Archaeologists believe that, and the seating capacity of the theaters in the ancient cities were always approximately 10% of the population. And that's why. And the population of the city was estimated to be 240,000 people. So then just imagine, and 2,000 years ago, a city, the area it was covering was approximately 10 square miles, and 240,000 people were living here. It was big, and busy, and crowded, rich, and beautiful, and elite, and a corrupted city. And the acoustic in this theater is fantastic. If you light a match, if you tear a piece of paper, if you drop a coin on a marble block in the middle of the orchestra, and then anybody standing at the highest point of the theater can hear it very, very easily. Unfortunately, almost everybody make the same mistake, and they call it amphitheater, or they call it stadium. It is not amphitheater, it is not stadium, it is a theater. Okay, then what is amphitheater? Amphi means two, amphi means double. Amphitheater means two theaters. And a semicircle is a theater, then another semicircle is a theater. Amphitheaters, two theaters, and the full circle ones are called amphitheater because a full circle is made of two theaters. So then this is full circle, like like the Colosseum in Rome. It is amphitheater, but it is a theater because it is semicircle. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this theater is very important for you because this is the theater and mentioned in the Bible, Acts of the Apostles, and chapter 19, and verse from 20 to 28, and where St. Paul wanted to preach in the middle of second missionary journey.
And this was the second one that we saw here, in Ephesus. I mean, this is the big one right here. Of course, like I said, where Paul did preach. And, this was kind of at the end of the road. If you were to look down the other way, over our shoulder the other way, we would gone all the way to what was, there you go, Betty, there's the ruts. The ruts, yeah, from the chariots and the carriages. We would have looked out to what would have been the port or the sea, where the boats would have actually docked there, and the people would have gotten off there. And evidently, it was quite a large harbor there as well. So this is what I'm talking about. Look straight on down there. Of course, now that's all filled in.
You can't
so it's big
see
meadow.
it anymore.
You can't see it anymore.
That's
right. But this must have been beautiful. And can you imagine? They had oil lamps and things. So at nighttime, this was probably illuminated, and it was just. I imagine it was really quite beautiful. If anybody has the opportunity, to take this trip and to go to Ephesus, I would really strongly recommend it because it is one of the wonders of the world that, that they're still working on and bringing it back so that we can really appreciate so much of the history and so many of the things that went on here.
Turkey has been one of my very favorite places to visit. I think it's an exciting ancient, has everything in it that you know, the music, everything about it. I
Oh
just
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's
And the one time that we took
shopping.
shopping especially, one trip that we did take several years ago into the interior of Turkey was really, really magnificent. That was a real eye opener to me. Things that I had never seen or had never even read about before, and bingo! All of a sudden, there you were right in the middle of it.
Where we were sitting, where was like the salt, where. You know, and Monsignor Balker was there putting his feet in the water. Oh, it was fun.
Well, we're now back in Greece. We have taken our ship and we've come over to the island of Rhodes. Rhodes is a very, very interesting island. We've been here before, but this time we explored more of it, and we're going to do that on some of our continuing shows. But we want you to see the port here of Rhodes. And of course, the Colossus of Rhodes too was here, and we'll take a look. I don't think it's going to be on this episode, but I think on the next one we'll see where they believe that the Colossus stood.
Takes a lot of belief, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah,
that
it probably
when you see
does.
the spot there. Oh, come on.
Yeah, well, it probably fell down on an earthquake. Anyway, you can see the old city, and there are a few thousand people that live in the old city now, and we're going to take, as I say on the next episode, we're going to go through there. And you know, the shopping, as Betty says, was really great, but also we're going to discover things about some of the societies that you've heard about, and I won't say much about it on this episode, but we will on the next episode. Our buses are waiting for us here as we get off the ship, because we're going to really do some traveling on this next episode to see the island of Rhodes, and it's just marvelous. There's another ship right behind ours.
Very synchronized.
Oh, yes.
Beautiful, beautiful management
Right.
there at the port.
Exactly. Very, very much so. And we had a lot of time to spend here, and so we were really able to explore it. But the city just, even the walls of the ancient city
Well,
are just fascinating.
That's their fortification, isn't it?
Mhm.
Because of being a seaport there,
Right.
they had to be wary.
Exactly.
Weary and wary.
But there's still a little beach right here, and on a sunny day, you might see some people out here on the beach. But we'll go inside on our next episode. And Betty, that's just about all the time that we have right now. So we want to thank you very much for being with us on this episode. And join us again next week, because we're going to then visit the ancient city and be on the island of Rhodes.
Amen.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.